Congressman Dean Phillips is with us. He's running against President Biden in the Democratic primary, as much as there is a Democratic primary. Congressman, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Leland.
I bet you're not very surprised. You've been talking about this. You're the only Democrat who's been talking about this for a while.
Well, most Democrats know it. They've been feeling it. I think I'm the only one saying the quiet part out loud, Leland. I remember I think it was July of 2022, where I first said the president should pass the torch, cement his legacy. He did a fine job saving the country, I believe. And the only reason we're having these conversations right now is because he's running again. His next term would end in January of 2029. I don't think these conversations would be as significant if he had already decided to pass the torch, open the stage to a new generation, which is what he should have done. And it's sad to see. It's sad to see.
Democrats, including you, have been extraordinarily critical of Republicans' devotion to Donald Trump. It's something that Democrats sort of can't understand about Republicans. Why do Democrats seem to have the same devotion to President Biden?
I think we've entered an age of cults of personality, and I don't quite understand it. I think it's dangerous. I think it's delusional. And the whole message here should be, first of all, people need to vote in primaries. That's one. The reason we're handing the keys to the 5% on the far left, 5% on the far right, is the tragedy right now in the country. And then we have two political parties that are not promoting competition, in many cases actually stifling it, suppressing voters, candidates, and speech. When I say speech, I'm talking about debates. There may not even be any this year. We got a lot of problems. And all my message is competition. It's the United States of America. The more, the merrier. Let voters decide, and then things will get better. But in this...
Okay, well, to be fair, speaking of competition, South Carolina, President Biden, 96%, you 1.7%. New Hampshire, Biden, 63%, 64%. You didn't break 20%. What's next for you?
Well, introducing myself. I mean, the system is not designed to platform anybody but the coordinated candidate. And it's complicated. And I'm going to continue to do what you do when you run for president. Face voters, do debates, do town halls, show up, go to coffee shops and cafes. And when you got about 5% name recognition, as I do, by the way, anybody can become famous in politics. You just got to be a jerk. That's the whole problem right now. We have perverse incentives, Leland. It's true. The people most Americans know in Congress are not the workhorses. They're the show horses, and therein lies the big problem. It's
have you gotten any calls today with apologies or offers to help?
I have. I've gotten some notes today from people who are recognizing that they were subject to a delusion.
You don't have to give me names. You don't have to give me names, but give me why that changes the conversation for you.
I think, first of all, most of my colleagues have recognized this, but there's a system, Leland, in Congress where if you get out of line, you risk losing your next election. I'm not running for re-election. I'm not subject. I don't need the money. I don't need the re-election support from the DCCC or whoever it might be. And that's liberating. My colleagues don't have that luxury, so they have to stay in line, oftentimes counter their own principles. And that's what we're seeing. By the way, it's not unique to one party or the other. We saw it with my Republican colleagues with Trump. Now it's happening with Biden.
Let's play this out. We played the clip of Kamala Harris, who arguably is less popular and less electable than Joe Biden is, at least at the current moment, if you look at the polling, especially in swing states. What are the options for Democrats right now?
Well, right now, I'm the only other Democrat in the race. You have to, by the way, one of the most complicated parts of running for president is getting onto the state ballots. It cost me over $2 million, probably thousands of hours. There are barriers to entry that are artificially designed to keep candidates away.
So is there a situation where we get
I'm on 40, well, let me just tell you, I'm on 42 state ballots, I believe is the number, 42, most of the states. I'm the only alternative in the race right now, and that's the way the system is designed. Frankly, I wish it was designed differently. I tried to get others to enter the stage because competition is good. None of the people I called, with names much better known than mine, decided to do it, and here we are.
All right, so play this out for us, because I think last night and into today is the first time there's been real discussion of what happens if ... with Joe Biden, whether it be voluntary that he steps down or, as some say, an actuarial event occurs, which obviously nobody hopes for, but you have to plan for it when somebody's that old. How does this work at the convention? I mean, are we going to show up in Chicago in 24 and it's going to look like Chicago in 68?
I hope it doesn't for a lot of reasons. But you know, first of all, we've only had 3 primaries so far. Most of the country doesn't know me. I think, unfortunately, because of yesterday's events, I think more. In fact, I think searches for my name today went up gazillion%, if that was a number. My point being, there's suddenly interest.
Donald Trump thinks gazillion.
Gazillion's it's a big number, let me just tell you. My point is that people are taking interest. They're finally being jarred into reality. So many Americans did not want either of these men at the top of the ticket, but are now only starting to pay attention. I hope the convention is not a brokered convention that's a disaster.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.